Hello, Aaron Post here from SBCU, one of the BG Fit professors. Now that you've got your XY tool, I'd like to go over how we actually document here in the Fit Lab. The XY tool can be set up both in the trainer or out of the trainer in the workstand in the shop. In order to attach the XY tool to the bike, you will need to replace the nuts on your quick release with these attachments in order to slide the tool onto the axles either on the trainer or in the workstand. If you're doing it in the workstand, you will need to replace both quick releases, but as you can see here on the trainer, you can just go right up and back it up against the axle on the rear of the trainer. You're going to notice that the logos are going to line up on these bottom two pieces once you have the tool assembled properly for measuring bikes that have the bolt on the drive side. So like our S-Works cranks, for example, that have that bolt on the drive side, we're going to set up the tool facing out this way so we can center around that bottom bracket spindle right here. In order to get that bottom bracket spindle measured up accurately, you're going to loosen these three knobs so that you can move the tool both forward and back and up and down in order to have the arrow pointing right at that bottom bracket bolt. The questions we get asked the most concern the measurement pieces at the top of the measurement tool. The first tool we're going to be putting on is for the handlebars in order to measure the drop, which we're going to slide in right here above the handlebars. The remaining two pieces are for measuring saddle placement. The way that you're going to want to put these on is have the long flat piece go on first in order to measure the tip of the saddle, followed by the shorter piece with the white line across the top, used for measuring the midpoint of the saddle. Start by having your handlebar measurement piece out of the way so we can lower the top bar down to the midpoint of the saddle. Using the white line piece, align with the midpoint of your saddle. Then bring the other piece just to the nose of your saddle. Once we have the top bar aligned with level of the saddle, then we can measure the handlebar drop. Align the tool just over the top of your handlebar center and drop the measurement piece to the center top of your handlebar. Once we have all of these pieces aligned, now we can actually take the measurements on the bike. Two coordinates that we're looking for here are your X and Y's. So we're going to start by measuring for the Y-axis. You'll notice down arrow points at both the top and at the bottom of the tool, pinpointing the exact point where you want to align your tape measure. So in order to get the Y measurement for this bike, I'm going to zero out at the bottom right here and take the measurement to the bottom of this piece in order to get my Y coordinate. In order to make the tool adjustable, we had to put the dial right in line with the bottom bracket spindle center. So in order to take measurements off of the top bar, we've specifically indicated a point 100 millimeters off of that exact center line. If we take all the measurements to right here, we can just add or subtract that 100 millimeters from each of the individual measurements. When measuring for the saddle, there's a couple of different measurements that you can take. Since we have this aligned with the tip of the saddle, we can go from that 100 millimeter line to the back of this plate that's actually touching the nose of the saddle in order to get that X measurement. Furthermore, if you wanted to measure it to the midpoint of the saddle, I can go all the way back here to the white line that pinpoints the middle of the saddle. When measuring the X coordinate to the handlebar, again, I'm going to start at that 100 millimeter starting point and then measure to the white line at my handlebar. The last measurement that I'm going to take is handlebar drop relative to the saddle. Since this is zeroed out at that midpoint of the saddle, I can come right over here to the handlebar and measuring again from the point where it has the Y pointing down just to the center top of my handlebar. And that distance gives me my handlebar drop relative to my saddle. Those are all the measurements that we would have to take if measuring a bike with the bolt on the drive side. The other question we get often is, how do I measure a bike that has the bolt on the non-drive side? Following, we're going to show you how to orient the pieces in this tool in order to take the measurements on the other side of the bike. When measuring a bike with the bolt on the crank arm on the non-drive side, all of the measurements will still be the same, but we have to set the tool up differently. The first thing you're going to notice is that both of the beams on the lower portion have to be flipped over and reversed, which means that the logos aren't going to align anymore. The second piece that will need to be flipped will be this bar right across here that denotes the 100 millimeter measurement that is offset off of the center line. Again, we want that pointing towards the handlebars. Setup for the remaining pieces is exactly the same, moving from the handlebar drop measurement device back to the saddle at both the nose and at the midpoint of the saddle. Once you have the tool set up on this side, all of the measurements that you can take are going to be transferable between any other bike. I hope this helps with setting up your XY tool. If you have any further questions, don't hesitate to contact us here at SBCU. Thank you very much.